Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, you're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else, not in the media, and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome to another edition of Illinois Rising, post-election edition. Joining me on this installment, by the way, I'm Dan Proft. I guess I should introduce myself. Co-host of Chicago's Morning Answer, AM 560, Monday through Friday, 5 to 9 a.m. with Amy Jacobson. And joining me is Brian Timpone, who's the president of Local Labs, which is a content production company. And I do a bunch of local newspapers around the state in conjunction with Timpone and his company. Your general reactions to the bloodbath that was the 2018 midterm election in Illinois, with 6, probably 7, -7 in the Illinois State House, -2, probably -3 in the state Senate. The Illinois State Republican Party chairman losing his Cook County Commissioner seat, another suburban Cook County Commissioner seat gone down to 2 seats on the Cook County Board of Commissioners, losing the Lake County Board, incursions in the DuPage County Board, and then, of course, the top of the ticket being swept away with Ronner being blown out. Big turnout. Trump. That's what the surrender Republicans will say about why they got decimated. But unfortunately for them, Ohio had a big turnout, too, and they elected a Republican governor. Florida had a big turnout, too, and their big turnout was Republicans electing a Republican governor and picking off a Democrat United States senator. So something else may be going on in Illinois that's not going on in other states, including states that are similar to us in many ways, like Ohio.
Right, Dan. It's really hard if you're running for state rep or state senate to outrun a gubernatorial candidate who was basically poisonous on the ballot. You know, he lost by 15 points as an incumbent, which is shocking. And I think that one of when you look at Bruce Rauner, we can sit and talk about the specific issues where we felt like he missed. But I think that the contrast to Trump almost made it worse. You know, Donald Trump is appealing to people because he's candid, he speaks his mind, and he's very human. He fights back. And Rauner really provided the opposite. So at one level, we disagree with him on issues, but he also didn't even fight for the positions he was taking on those issues. And I think to Republicans, they were just sick of it. They were disgusted. I mean, all the positions he took that were unpopular to people like us were positions he didn't really aggressively fight for. He just said, I'm going to support HB 40. I don't want to talk a lot about it.
That's kind of an all things to all people approach he took. And that's, the proverbial middle of the road, traffic going both ways. And that seems to be the story of Bruce Rauner. For more on this topic, as well as the future of the Illinois GOP, since you can't undo the past, we're pleased to be joined by Mark Batinick, Republican state representative from Plainfield. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Although after that introduction you did about the bloodbath, I'm thinking about crawling back into bed.
Well, I hate to present you with the reality on the ground, but of course you're familiar with it. And, oh, by the way, we should mention, look, a couple of these races are not done yet because you've got absentee ballots that are outstanding. So Mark won a close race, but he's not taking anything for granted. Tom Morrison in Palatine won a close race, not taking anything for granted. So those are important issues as well. But the larger issue, Mark, is the future of the Illinois Republican Party, the House Republican Caucus, the Senate Republican Caucus, the state party apparatus to the extent it exists, leadership, and then infrastructure building, including candidate identification, recruitment, and development. Where do we go from here? Where do you think would be the most positive, productive, substantive next steps?
People talk about, I'm going to compare this to budgeting. People talk about zero-based budgeting where you kind of just start with the whiteboard and start from scratch and go from there. I think we're probably at whiteboard time. So everything needs to be looked at the way we do everything, whether it be leadership of the party, leadership of the campaign apparatus, what our messaging is. I just think we need to start with a complete whiteboard and grow from there.
Mark, it's Brian Timponi. Congratulations on the win. You're out in Kendall and Will County, but Kendall County is part of your district. Kendall is one of the most Republican areas of the state, certainly one of the most Republican areas of the Chicago suburban area. Rauner won it handily 2014. I noticed that he either barely won or barely lost this time around, which is a pretty dramatic change. It affected your race, and it affected Randy Hultgren's race. He lost.
Randy, I'm going to jump in there. Randy Hultgren affected Randy Hultgren's race, so that was not a strong campaign by his organization. You have to show up, and that was as much of a drag on the tickets in the area as anything else. And in fact, I actually, looking at a couple of precincts, precinct by precinct, I think Rauner may have done better than Randy on a precinct by precinct basis. But that it also goes to something that the Republican Party needs to really look at, is the ground game. The campaign that the Underwood campaign ran in the area was second to none. They did things that people dream about doing on the ground in terms of turnout and getting people to flip and things like that. So they were a well-organized campaign against a campaign that, frankly, didn't show up.
Well, yeah, just develop that a little bit more. So what didn't you see from or for Randy, in addition to the money disparity that would played itself out all over the country?
I'm not sure how many secrets I want to divulge on the radio, but broadly speaking, the ground game for Randy Hultgren was non-existent, and the ground game and individual conversations, you just saw people all over the place in the district like ants the last couple of weeks for the Underwood campaign. So if you look at the New York Times poll that was done, where they actually show the red dots and the blue dots as far as where voters are, they did one October 15th and November 1st. And you just see high-density areas flip from red to blue in the course of 2 weeks. I saw it on the ground. I saw the people out. I saw the signs popping up. I saw the conversations being had. And I saw the map flip in 2 weeks. They still have the maps up on the website, and you can see a dramatic difference. And that's what they had a message. They had the pre-existing message that drove home. I know that they had people that were going to doors, hard Republican doors, and saying things like, hi, I'm from the Underwood campaign. I'm from the area, and I have a pre-existing condition, and I want you to vote for Lauren Underwood. Those were the sorts of conversations that they were having. So they're on an individual basis playing on the emotions of voters in the area. And it showed, because I think I ran, where most of the races were relatively tight, the few precincts I looked at, I ran about 13, 14 points ahead of Congressman Hultgren.
Well, and so those races are going to begin in earnest. You know how this works. You're in perpetual campaign cycle, particularly when you have two Democrats and Caston and Underwood pick up two traditionally Republican seats. So that combined with what's happening at the state level, what do we learn in terms of messaging from the campaigns, both at the congressional level and the state level? Because it was, yes, the pre-existing condition thing, which was a lie. As Senator from Louisiana, Dr. Bill Cassidy, pointed out, there's not a Republican who doesn't support coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. And then the other big lie that they used was Republicans are all NRA tools that are indifferent about school shootings, which is obviously a lie. So the response in the previous years by the Republican Party in this state has been to run from issues that we get demagogued and demonized over. So don't be pro-life, because they'll attack you on that. So should we now abandon our belief in Second Amendment individual rights because they attack us on that? Should we abandon beliefs where they attack us? Or is there something else we need to be thinking about and doing, an approach that we need to take culturally that's different in response?
Yeah, let's take the pro-life issue for example. I clearly say to everybody, I do not support taxpayer funding of abortion. And you know what? That makes about 80% of the public happy in my district. I don't know why we didn't use that in these campaigns. Some of the campaigns have really extreme views on their pro-choice views. There's varying degrees of pro-choice. And I can go up to a pro-choice voter and say, here's where I am on this issue. You may not know this is how extreme my opponent is on the issue. Now, frankly, I wish we stood for those things and gave rank and file Republicans a reason to get out and vote in droves against the extremism that the left hides. They hide their extremism and they showcase their moderation, and we run from that. we're afraid to fight and take on their extremism, and I don't know why.
Right. It's that you're an extremist, and our response is, no, I'm not. Well, you're losing that argument.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely correct. So we need to give broad, overarching messages on why you need to vote Republican. You know, I know you talk about the property tax issue. I talk about the property tax issue a lot. That was something that I know we talked about promoting as a theme for the state. We should have done that. We should have said, here's the Republican plan for property taxes as a theme. Everybody should have been drowning out the same thing. Here's what the Democrats have done that have decimated your home value. You know, every dollar property tax increase decreases the value of your home by about $14. And we didn't do that. We didn't talk about those broad things. We didn't talk about their extremism. And we didn't talk broadly as a group about what we stand for and get people excited to vote for Republicans in Illinois.
He is State Representative Mark Batinick, Republican from Plainfield. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.